Dempsey and Brian Sexton have all the news and information to get you ready for today's game.
Into the end zone, touchdown!
The Publix Tailgate Show is brought to you by Baptist Health, Farah and Farah, Yucatan Guacamole, and by EverBank. The Publix Tailgate Show starts right now.
Good morning and Happy New Year. I'm about 14 hours early, I get it, but let's start it off right with a win today. The Jaguars hosting the Carolina Panthers, and this is the Publix pregame show, hour number 1 from the Hyundai Studios inside EverBank Stadium. Brian Sexton along with Mike Dempsey. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
All right, let me cover the headlines here before we get started. First of all, this is a must-win because today the Jaguars could clinch or be virtually eliminated.
Yes.
Right? And here's the clinching scenario, Mike. The Jaguars win, and both the Texans, who are hosting the Titans, and the Colts, who are hosting the Raiders, lose. If that's the scenario, Jags win, Colts, Texans lose, Jaguars have the South wrapped up. If, however, the Jaguars lose and both those teams win, then the Jaguars find themselves in a big hole, and they'll need a 6-way tiebreaker, depending on how things roll out, to get into the playoffs this year. So this is truly a must-win. Not the verifiable one, the veritable one, you know how they talk about it, being, well, it's kind of like a must-win. This is a must-win.
Well, it is, but there's also the scenario where the Colts and Texans and Jaguars all lose, in which case, you know, I mean, look,
you're
it
saying
happened
there's
last
a
week,
chance. No, it
right?
did.
I mean, it did. So I understand what you're saying. I'm not counting. You got to assume that you have to win this game because the likelihood is that the Texans and the Colts are not both going to lose.
You got to end this slide, too. And look, it was one thing when you lose by missing a field goal and you feel bad about the opportunities you cost yourself, and then a quarterback playing hurt and the turnovers in Cleveland, and then Lamar Jackson, and that looks like the best team in football. But last week was just a really poor performance. From the start to the finish, it didn't look like the Jaguars were interested in ending the slide last week. They better be interested in it today.
Well, they better be. You're right. And I do think, though, Brian, without Trevor Lawrence playing, you get in sports sometimes that kind of rally around the lack of superstar effect. They used to call it the Ewing effect when in 99 the Knicks lost Patrick Ewing and as an 8 seed made it all the way to the NBA Finals because everybody else then at that point stops looking at the superstar or the leader or whomever. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence is fully established as an NFL superstar, but you know what I'm saying. They stop looking to him to make the plays above the X's and O's, and they all have to raise their level of play today around C.J. Beathard. So you may get an inspired performance out of the rest of the roster today.
Help is not on the way. You're going to have to get it done with the guys that you've got today, and that is C.J. Beathard, which brings us to the issue of the quarterback. And I got the sense earlier this week, first of all, and you've done this long enough to know, when you start seeing roster transactions, signing Matt Barkley to the active roster off the Giants practice squad, you know, the flag should go up. Okay, maybe he's not going to be ready to go this week. And then he talked the next day, and I got the distinct sense that he knew early that he was not going to be able to go. And you know what, Mike, you just touched on it. It's a shoulder. He's been battling a knee on his left leg and an ankle on his right leg and the concussion last week, and now the shoulder. I think for this team to have C.J. Beathard at quarterback, who's getting all the reps with the backup wide receivers, right? I mean, you've got Elijah Cooks out there. You've got Tim Jones out there. You've got Parker Washington out there. So the guy who's getting all the reps is probably the better option than the guy who's not.
Well, and in addition to that, he's had some decent chemistry with Calvin Ridley in the relief appearances that he'd had to come in against Cincinnati. He had the big play that got overturned because of the penalty, and then he threw a touchdown to Ridley last week. So he'll be counting on Calvin Ridley a lot today. You would imagine Evan Ingram as well. And you hope the Jags can get the running game going. And look, I understand why they have abandoned the run in the second half of these games recently. Right? I mean, at a certain point, I don't know what you gained by getting 1.5 yards on every single carry, but Carolina has been one of the most run-susceptible defenses all year. The question is, can a team that can't run the ball versus a team that can't stop the run, which, you know, approach is going to, right, what's going to come out on top today, I guess.
All right, and finally, last week looked like an SOS, right? like, hello, distress. But the other side of it was the same old stuff, right? We saw the turnovers, the penalties, the drop passes, the missed tackles. For the Jaguars to get over the hump this week, they've got to get past themselves. And Doug Peterson talked about it at great length about the players taking the coaching and working and getting the job done on the field. Today, they can't be the same old Jaguars that they've been the last 4 weeks, which, by the way, wasn't the same Jaguars that we saw for most of the first half of the season. You would hope that they can't. I mean, I think Carolina, if they play up to their record, you might be able to play sloppy and get away with beating them. You might be able to kind of disguise some of your mistakes. But the bigger
I think, idea here is the Jags can't continue to play that way and expect to go very far with this season. Even if they make it into the playoffs and they kind of limp in, they're not going to be long-lived if they continue to make these kind of mistakes. You can't keep beating yourselves. And that's not to take away from the opponents that they played in recent weeks, but they've contributed to it. They've made it harder on themselves.
All right, let's hear from some of the coaches and players and touch on some of the topics this week. Doug Peterson was asked by me earlier in the week about the decision process between the number one guy, Trevor Lawrence, who he has said time and again gives this team its best chance to win, and that's self-evident. But in this situation, I asked, does he? How do you decide between the number one guy and the guy who's throwing the ball all week long on the practice field?
The biggest thing, and we've talked about this too, is you don't want to risk further injury, right? And so that's the big thing. And, if Trevor plays, we're all in on that. If CJ plays, we're all in on that. The one thing about CJ is, in Trevor's absence during the week, it's valuable that CJ's gotten all the reps and he's prepared that way. And he's ready to go. At a moment's notice. He stepped in last week and obviously did a nice job for us last week at the end of that game. But it's a tough decision. But sometimes you got to make, or I have to make those decisions based on Trevor's health and obviously where we are as a team.
Yeah, a couple of things here. One, that we're all in on whichever way we go, right? If Trevor Lawrence had started this game, it wasn't going to be like, let's see if he can get through the first quarter and kind of. It's either we think he can play and finish a game, and things happen during the game, but going into it, there's no reason to think he won't be able to make it through, or he won't. And if we don't think he will, then this is the option that they've gone with C.J. Beathard. The other thing, Brian, is can't tell how many people have come to me this week and said, man, they just need to let Trevor have a week off. This is not that. This is not just let's back off of Trevor, let him calm his mind down, let C.J. Beathard have a shot here. Trevor is their guy. There's zero question about that. If he's able to play, the difference between this and the week before, with the concussion protocol, it's bright line. You either pass the protocol or you don't. With the shoulder, could you play? Could you not play? How there's more subjectivity, I think, in this injury.
We were told, without a doubt, and we were told that it was a sprained AC joint, which is the exact same injury that Anthony Richardson had in Indianapolis that cost him his season.
Right.
He's not back throwing yet. It'll probably be a couple of weeks. So you've got to think about the long-term health of your quarterback. Now, along those lines, there is a report this morning that he could be available next week against Tennessee if the Jaguars need him to play, if they're still playing for something.
Well, look, like you said, the first scenario, beat the Panthers, wrap up the division with the Colts and Texans losing today, and then you got the luxury to sit him.
And you would.
For health-wise, right. And now, you don't want him necessarily, it's not ideal to go into the playoffs with your starting quarterback not having played for a couple of weeks, but at least you'd have that luxury of knowing you've got your spot secured.
All right, we heard from Trevor Lawrence this week, who at this time was not sure, or at least it had not been divulged that he was not going to play. But he talked about having lost a couple of games in a row and the adversity this team faces and his confidence that this team is built to be able to handle the adversity that they've had and that they hope to get through today.
I think that we've had myself and other guys step up and show some emotion at times when needed, whether it's in games or outside of games, stuff that obviously not everybody sees. And I think that we have the right voices and the right guys that are saying the right things. It's just more of, we got to go do it now. And there becomes a point where it doesn't really matter what you say. You gotta go do it. So that's kind of where we're at. And I have all the confidence in this team that we're going to respond the right way.
Let's hope they do. I mean, last week was not a great sign, like you said. That the other ones very close among the elite teams in the AFC or some of the elite teams in the AFC. Tampa Bay is a hot team right now, but you really didn't give yourself a chance to compete.
He hasn't missed a game since he missed the game at Clemson with COVID.
Right.
I mean, so I asked him, how are you going to handle standing on the sidelines and watching when your team needs to stop this slide? He didn't have a good answer for it because I don't think he was even sure how it was going to be for him.
Position.
Right. 100%.
Really, ever.
Right. Press Taylor has a lot on his shoulders this week trying to get the offense going with C.J. Beathard and a bevy of backup guys playing in the wide receiver corps. Now, he does have the benefit of getting Cam Robinson back in the lineup today. That should help. But Press talked this week about the offensive game plan that they've got, and they've fallen behind and put themselves in situations where they never really have gotten the opportunity to actually execute the game plan they worked on all week long.
I think one of the toughest things is the dynamics of the game have gotten us out of the way we want to play. We want to be in first and second down. We want to be attacking with, all the stuff that we spend Wednesday building and putting in and practicing and repping, but you fall behind quickly. You're counting the number of possessions you have remaining in the game, and maybe you get an opportunity. Maybe you have to get away from some of the plan that you hope to put in and attack a certain way. So sometimes the game dictates that way. That obviously makes it tough. We want to be an aggressive, attacking, utilizing the run, utilizing the threat of the run, and then you find yourself behind with limited possessions and behind however many scores. You maybe have to get away from that plan initially.
Yeah, I mean, I do understand you get down to a certain point and you have to abandon the run or at least take a back seat to the passing game because that's what puts points up quicker. But I don't know, Brian. They can't run.
No.
They can't run successfully. So I don't think this is a case of, if like they hung in there against Baltimore in that whole first half, right? It was 10-7 going to the fourth quarter. It was a close game. They still couldn't run.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the score is if you're not moving people, and the interior of this offensive line has not been moving people.
It has not been good. And if you've watched Ezra Cleveland play the last couple of weeks, since he injured his knee in Cleveland, it looks like he's playing with one leg. So, maybe today's a day we see Tyler Shatley playing some more at guard in order to get that started. And I'll throw this out there. I'd love to see Tank Bigsby get some carries. He's a guy that could pound the rock up the middle. He's got that ability. And I know he doesn't have a lot of trust in terms of his pass protection, but he's a hammer. And if the other guy isn't able to hammer and you're using him more as a weapon, maybe give Bigsby some carries.
Yeah, maybe. When, ETN's getting like 6 or 8, though, there are not just that many running back carries at all. So it's tough, I think, to look and say, we've got this guy who's clearly the top of our depth chart guy. Let's go to the guy who right now is clearly third on the depth chart and make sure we get him some looks.
Well, I suggested only in the sense that you want to pound the ball a couple of times and loosen things up.
You could try it with Dearness Johnson as well. I just don't know if there are enough carries to go around right now.
Well, we're going to find out today if they're committed to the run, and certainly they need that to help their quarterback. The other place they can really help their quarterback is on defense. And last week, the Jags defense did not attack the passer. They did not create the takeaways that they needed. They didn't help their offense. And today with C.J. Beathard, they desperately need to help him. More possessions, shorter fields. Mike Caldwell, the defensive coordinator, said this week that he has confidence in these guys turning it around.
You got to have confidence in yourself. You've been doing this a long time. They've put in so much work. And they understand that, it's time to go out there and let the work pay off. And it hasn't these last few games, and it's frustrating. And you go back to work, and you grind, and you go back out there and give it another go. But mentally, every time you step out on that field, you need to know that you're able to get the job done, and it's our opportunity to go get it done.
Look, they did a solid job against the run last week. It's not that Tampa's the team that runs it down your throat anyway, but Baker Mayfield was clicking along with a 116 quarterback rating, so it doesn't really matter. And if you're not creating the turnovers like they were earlier in the year, and you're allowing one aspect of the opposing team's offense to go up and down the field like the Bucs were last week with the passing game, I don't know what the answer is to getting back in that mode where you create turnovers, hopefully to get some pressure on Bryce Young today and get back to that.
Well, an early lead would help, right? So, I mentioned that the defense needs to help the quarterback, but the quarterback could help the defense.
Sure.
They call it complementary football. And if you're wondering what that term is, you've heard it a lot from Doug Peterson. Both sides helping each other out. Get an early lead, allow the edge guys to create, to get after the quarterback. You've got a young quarterback who hasn't played badly the last few weeks. He's played pretty well, actually. The Falcons game, and they only scored 7 points, or 9 points, rather. But last week against the Packers, they scored 30 points. So they're playing better football.
They're more confident at this point because they did get their second win. They did, and last week's game, as much as anything, showed that they're just not mailing it in down the stretch here, which is very easy to do when you have the worst record in the league. A little bit different here, like organizationally, sometimes it seeps down. Like you're in position to get the number one pick, and it just kind of seeps down that the organization is satisfied with competitive football that ends up in a loss. Well, in their case, they don't own their pick, so they don't have that incentive. They're like, hey, the heck with this, man. Let's just go out and try to build some confidence for Bryce Young heading into the offseason.
And we've seen a team playing with a rookie quarterback and an interim coach knock a team out of the playoffs. Jaguars did it in 2021.
Happens all the time.
Right? Happens. So they can come in here and knock the Jags out of their playoff perch.
This is a playoff game for them. They're having fun at this point in the season.
Final thought from Josh Allen about getting this season turned around.
You limit the mistakes. You limit the mistakes in practice each day. That carries on to the game. You run to the ball in practice each day. It carries on to the game. So if we can show ourselves that we can get back to doing that consistently every day, every play, Sunday is going to be easy. But again, let's challenge ourselves here today, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, just get back on track.
Easier said than done.
This is not a new formula. Are they going to do it or not? We've known this. Stop beating yourself. Stop making these kind of mistakes. It feels like every loss recently that they've had, we hear this mantra over and over and over again. Okay, now's the time. Time's running out. There's no time left. Got to stop that today. You're not going to be perfect. Nobody expects that, but it's got to be a lot better than it's been.
Sand's running through the hourglass of time, right?
They're slipping.
All right, we'll see what they get done. Coming up, much, much more ahead here in hour number 1 of the Publix Tailgate Show, including...
If you give him time, he can make every throw. He got athleticism, too, so, you got to be able to contain him a little bit.
That is rookie safety Antonio Johnson, who knows a thing or two, having faced Bryce Young when he played at Texas A&M. Plus, CBS Sports senior writer Pete Prisco, all that and more, straight ahead on Jags Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguar sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguar sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Tackle your marketing needs with Kessler Creative. Providing direct mail services for more than a decade, Kessler has a wide range of services from small mailers to large banners and signs.
Where shopping is a pleasure.
Kessler is your first pick to receive the Tackle Your Market list. Elevate your business and be on the winning team with Kessler Creative. Kessler Creative, results-driven marketing and proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars. Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in New Orleans and Pittsburgh. Watch them win in Houston and Nashville. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
Football and Miller Lite. Duval's greatest pairing. Can cracks and kickoff. Tailgates going well past postgame. Sunday night overtime.
For the touchdown.
Followed by Monday morning pride. Knocking on bar tops for luck. Kicking back on any given Sunday. You never forget the way some things taste. Jags football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbecue.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Well, it's a spectacular North Florida day. Spectacular. Sunny skies, 60 degrees at kickoff. I mean, just an incredible way to end 2023, and hopefully the Jags can add to that by breaking their 4-game losing streak and potentially clinching the AFC South. We'll see. This is the Publix Tailgate Show, hour number 1. Brian and Mike with you from the Hyundai Studios. And once again, Mike, you come through with a big interview with Pete Prisco. I can't even imagine what's on his mind this week.
Well, you could probably imagine.
Yeah,
I mean, right, a lot of self-inflicted wounds from the Jags. So we started out with Pete, just how the Jags can start to limit some of these mistakes, particularly the turnovers.
You know, it's one of those situations, Mike, where sometimes it just seems to feed off itself, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. And how do you fix it? You play better. You know, you don't allow pressures. You don't pull the ball when you don't need to. You take care of the football. And I think from that standpoint, it's been sloppy. I mean, this has been a sloppy team for a long time, and it kind of oozes out every Sunday. And you can't win games constantly turning the ball over. So it's a major issue, and I don't know how they fix it, but maybe attention to detail during the week will help that.
Well, look, the Bucs went up and down the field on the defense as well, so it's both sides of the ball that were contributing. Pete, what is fixable right now? The Jags have a myriad of problems. What do you think is within their control to go out there and get right in these final couple weeks?
Well, I think they have to be better on the offensive line. I think that needs to be fixable. How you fix it, that's the question. I mean, Cam Robinson is, coming around soon. You got guys that have been banged up. I think they need to make a change at center. They haven't done that. They should. They should put Chatley in there and let him play center. But again, it's not like you're going to just, go down your roster and say, hey, give me this all-pro tackle and plug him in, or give me this all-pro wide receiver and plug him in. You got to try and fix it with what you have. And what they have right now is not working. So I think they need to make changes, Mike. I think they need to sit down Luke Fortner and put a center in there.
Anybody else that needs to have a long look at whether or not they should be, maybe from a more positive outlook, who needs to be getting more reps? Is there a guy you'd like to see get an opportunity, a larger opportunity that isn't getting it right now?
On the defensive side of the ball, I think it's Antonio Johnson. I think he needs to play more. I think when you watch him, he adds speed to the defense. They lack that. In fact, they lack speed across the board, Mike. This is not a fast team, and that shows up week in and week out. On the offense, it shows up by their inability to drive the ball down the field. And on the defensive side of the ball, it shows up on their inability to run to the football. So I think you get a guy like Antonio Johnson on the field, I think it adds a little pop to the defense and a little speed.
Final home game of the 2023 regular season today, Pete. The Jags have really struggled at EverBank Stadium. Is that just kind of a fluke in the scheduling, the way things fell, or was there something to their lack of performance at home this year?
I think sometimes this team has a tendency to ease up in certain situations when they think they're going to walk onto the field and just win the football game. And, that's not to say that, the 49ers, they were a better team than Jacksonville. But I think the Chiefs, they were in that game, but they're probably at the time they were viewed as a better team and probably still are. And so you throw those games aside. But what happened against the Texans is inexcusable, and some of those other losses to the Bengals, inexcusable. So I think they tend to let up against some of those lesser teams, and it's hurt them in the past.
Pete, let's put the talk of this year's squad on hold for a moment and recognize that Fred Taylor, one of the all-time great Jaguars, finally made it in as a finalist to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So he's down to the list of 15, which will be whittled down to 5 during Super Bowl week. Obviously, we think Freddie is well-deserving of a spot in Canton, Ohio, along with Tony Baselli. What do you think his chances are?
Well, I think now that he's in the room, his chances are going to be very good. And this is one of those guys, when you went around talking to the voters and trying to get them on board with Fred Taylor, they're like, well, he was hurt all the time. You had to go explain to him that it was not the case. He played a lot of games, and he was a great player. Why doesn't he have touchdowns? Well, they took him out on the goal line. It wasn't his fault. The guy was a great, great player. And I think now that he's in the room, and more players, guys like Derek Brooks and Ray Lewis and some of the all-time greats are going to speak up for him, I think he has a real shot to get in this year.
All right, Pete, let's get it back to today. Carolina Panthers are here. They have the worst record in the league, but the Jags played arguably like the worst team in the league last week. Who gets the job done today?
I think Jacksonville wins the game. They find a way. It's not going to be pretty. They're not a pretty team. They play sloppy, but this is a situation you have to win the game, and this is not a good Carolina team. Bryce Young, I know he had a moment last week at the end of the game, but he struggled for much of the season. Their offensive line might be worse than Jacksonville's right now, so I think they do find a way to win the game.
Well, I hope he's right, and I think it's all out there for him today, Brian. I still think they're the better roster than the Carolina Panthers, but they have to play like it.
Let me go back to something he said. Mm-hmm. He talked about the Jags easing up, and I think that Doug Peterson told us that earlier this season when he reminded them, and he said this in his post-game news conference after the 49ers game, this team hasn't done anything yet, right? Last year they got hot. It was a magical run. Things bounced their way. but they hadn't become that team, that powerhouse team that can go on the field and expect to win because they've done it game in and game out. And I think that's what Pete was touching on. I think we've learned that about this team this year. And perhaps, maybe this is wishful optimistic thinking heading into New Year, perhaps this stretch of 4 games teaches them that.
Well, it's also a good reminder that year to year, even though your personnel doesn't necessarily change that much, everything changes. I mean, you don't get to carry that over. They had so many of these guys with this must-win every week mindset, and they knew they had to win. And maybe just because they found themselves at 8-3 and they're in such a good position, they didn't feel that pressure. But with a team with so many of the same returning players who were a part of that mix where they just felt like we have to go out and win out, and they did, it's surprising that you haven't seen a little bit more intensity in the last month.
And he talked about Luke Fortner. And, the talk on Fortner coming into this year was very smart guy. I mean, incredibly smart guy. That he wasn't very strong, that he had to get stronger in the offseason. Clearly, this is a spot the Jaguars are going to have to address in the offseason because from the first game, where Grover Stewart pushed him around, he's had trouble establishing his position on the line of scrimmage, and the Jaguars' run game, I think, has suffered because of that.
Well, sure it has, particularly between the tackles, but you ask, well, why not Shatley? Why not try something? Because Shatley doesn't have the movement ability that Luke Fortner does.
That's what we're told.
Right, that's what we're told.
Yep.
Right, and Doug Peterson's been asked specifically about Luke Fortner and praised him at times this year. You see metrics out there where Fortner ranks as the worst starter. There's one going around saying he ranked as the 33rd overall center in the league. Well, there are only 32 starting centers in the league. That means at least one backup was ranked ahead of him as well. It's not ideal, but you've got limited options. If it's not Shatley, you're probably not going to make a move.
Well, this is help is not on the way. They're going to have to figure out a way to get better play in the middle of the line until they can address it through free agency or the draft and create more competition next offseason.
And while Carolina has been susceptible to the run, Derek Brown in the middle of that defensive line is probably the best run stuffer they have, and that's going to be a tough matchup both for Fortner and Brennan Sheriff.
Thought on Antonio Johnson. He mentioned that he would bring a lot to the table, and he happens to be the guy I talked to this week.
Yeah, I think he's an exciting guy that, you feel like in terms of a package of abilities to get him in the 5th round, he was 2nd-round talent, maybe even 1st-round talent in some people's eyes. So I think, perhaps a budding big-time contributor for this football team.
We saw the pass rush, the sack, the strip in the ball game against the Browns. It's clear he's starting to pick this thing up. And he lost a good bit of his season due to the hamstring injury, but week by week he's worked his way back and is now contributing to the effort on defense every week. He's also paying attention to what's going on around him, and he sees a team that's focused on finding a way to win, but isn't so tight that they're going to let the pressure get them to them today. Here's this week's player interview presented by Baptist Health and the Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute, the official sports medicine provider of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I feel like you hit the nail right on the head. We know the circumstances, and we know what the preparation for us, and our goals to be. But we also know it's pressure, but it's not too much pressure in here. Not added pressure, just pressure that I would say more like an expectation of ourselves. So that's why you see and you feel the way you feel in the locker room.
As a player, do you like the must-win situation? This team thrived on it last year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Your dogs always show up in big-time situations and must-need situations. And I just feel like as a team, and like you said, last year you seen it, when it was a must-win situation, the team really thrived. And I feel like how we just approach those situations was make us.
You found yourself on the field a lot later in the season. How have you guys figured the communication side of it out?
Practice. Have your mistakes at practice, have your questions at practice. So when you get in the game on one accord, and I feel like I have great vets around me, and they just make me comfortable on the field, and I just be able to be me and make plays.
Where do you learn the most from those guys? Is it on the sideline during a game, or is it in the film room during the week, or on the practice field?
Man, I say on the practice field. That's when we, face our most, I would say, questions and questionable situations. So, like I said, when we get in the game, we all be on the same page. And, if I have any questions, I go straight to anybody on the field and they be able to answer any question.
You saw Bryce Young a couple times in the SEC West. Give me a scouting report on him.
Great quarterback. If you give him time, he can make every throw. He got athleticism too, so you got to be able to contain him a little bit. And like I said, at the end of the day, he's a great guy and great quarterback.
Who would you say is the more dangerous team? A team that's playing for the division title that's lost a couple, or a team that's got nothing to lose like Carolina?
I say a team that got nothing to lose. I've been on the other side of that, and, that's motivation within itself just to, spoil another team's opportunities. And, what I'm saying, when you have a team with that mindset, they really go a little bit harder because, like I said, they don't have anything to lose, so they might as well help somebody else be in the same boat as them.
Let me get one final thought from you on special teams. It seems like this week, in talking to Heath Farwell, special teams can be that spark that gets this thing going. What's your thought on that, and do you enjoy the challenge that special teams provides a young player?
Of course. Special teams is one of the ways that I, was able to gain a spot on the team. And then on top of that, special team is the first play of every game. And, and also, like you said, it can be a very important play throughout the game if a team needs a spark or, just being dominant on special teams help, field position and everything. So I feel like that's the only place where all players on the team, offense, defense, come together on one accord in the same play.
You look at this kid, and he's 6'3", and he's got long arms. He's tall. He's athletic. He's the kind of modern safety in the middle of the field that is a difference maker, and he's young and he's talented. And if this team is going to make a run and get some things going, you'd think a guy like that might be the spark.
He might be, and which would be great because honestly, outside of Anton Harrison, they haven't had a ton of rookie impact beyond that first-round pick.
Yep.
And Antonio Johnson may be the guy late in the season. Maybe Brenton Strange, as he's getting back to health, will continue to do that. And look, I root for all these guys, but they haven't gotten a whole lot of this draft class. But he's a guy that I think has a special – he's got high-level skills, right? And
well, the comparison in terms of his body style is Kyle Hamilton. He's that big, tall guy in the middle.
He's a guy that, Brian, had he gone in the top 40 picks, nobody would have batted an eye. No. And so he lasted to the fifth round. It's kind of like when the Jags got a steal on Telvin Smith years back, that you got a guy that is talented more than where his draft stock indicated he should be, much to the advantage of the Jaguars.
All right, we'll see if he can make an impact today and as the Jaguars go forward towards the end of his rookie season. We've got much more ahead here in hour number one of the Publix Tailgate Show, including...
he's had such an impact on some games earlier this season. Let's get him back to that phase, and I believe he will.
That's Heath Farwell, special teams coordinator, talking about strong-legged kicker Brandon McManus, who has been struggling recently. And we'll talk about the special teams with Farwell coming up. The Panthers and Jaguars just after 1 o'clock. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguar sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguar sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
The creamiest, dreamiest, soft ice cream you get from Mr. Softy. For refreshing delight supreme, look for Mr. Softy. The milkshakes and the sundaes and the cones are such a treat. Look out for the ice cream stand, enjoy it from your seat. The creamiest, dreamiest, soft ice cream you get from Mr. Softy. For refreshing delight supreme, look for Mr. Softy. S-O-F-T-E-E, Mr. Softy.
Hi Jags fans, Andre Sisco here, safety of the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, I've partnered up with Lou Ray Peanut Company to serve a greater mission for the Jacksonville community with the Peanut Pickoff. Here's the deal. Every time the Jags make a pick, Lou Ray is going to donate to youth football initiatives in and around the Jacksonville area. On top of that, the Jaguars Foundation will match every dollar. With each interception, our team inches closer to that W, and our kids get to train for a brighter future. Remember, it was always the Jags. Duval!
Hello, I'm Dan Fields. If you're in the market for a full-size 8-passenger SUV, look no further than the Defender 130. And with the Defender 90, the 110, and this 130, there's luxury in the right size for everyone. Right, Sammy?
Plus, when you buy or lease from Land Rover Jacksonville, you'll become a member of the Fields Amenities Program with complimentary loaners, car washes, our cafe, and much more, all at no charge.
JEA is proud to be Northeast Florida's community-owned utility. So what does that mean? It means we serve our local customers, not investors. That we're always focused on keeping our costs as low as possible while exploring new ways to deliver clean, affordable energy and water. And that we invest in our people and infrastructure to deliver reliable, sustainable services. Because for 127 years, JEA has been here to serve you, and only you. JEA, your community, your utility.
You say there's nothing quite like the feel of the open road when you ride a motorcycle. You know it takes concentration, knowledge, and skills beyond those required to drive a car. Ride Smart Florida would like to take this opportunity to remind you to enjoy the road, but to always ride smart. S-M-A-R-T. Say no to drinking and riding. Make yourself more visible to motorists. Always wear your helmet. Ride in control. Train regularly and get endorsed. Visit RideSmartFlorida.com for more details. Do you ride smart? This message is provided by the Florida Department of Transportation.
Welcome back. The Publix Tailgate Show rolling along here. Hour number 1 on New Year's Eve. Brian and Mike with you from the Hyundai Studios at EverBank Stadium. Jaguars and Panthers coming up just after 1 o'clock this afternoon for the Jaguars. The playoff scenario, Mike, once again is win and the Texans and Colts both lose. Jags clinch.
Yeah, just win, right? Just win. I'm with you. That is the clinching scenario.
I'm thinking optimistically, right?
I'm with
It's New
you,
Year's.
right? Wouldn't that be
Right.
great that in the postgame today we're talking about back-to-back AFC South championships? That means something to
Hasn't
me.
happened since 1998 and 99. 24
Correct.
years.
You know,
long
and
time.
I know look, I get it. You're in the midst of it. There's a lot of pessimism and wallowing in what's happening. But, I hear Jaguar fans telling me, I don't care about making the postseason. We're not going to do anything anyway. You're talking out of anger.
Yeah.
You're talking
Hold
out
on.
of a lot of emotion. Make the postseason, win the division for back-to-back years, and start to establish that this is the precedent.
You don't know who might be available, who might be healthy all of a sudden if you have to have the opportunity to host a playoff game.
If for nothing else, look at the memories you've got from last year's game. Down 27-0. Oh, we got no chance in this game, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
then you'll never forget that.
Great memories.
Let's get at least one home playoff game, please.
All right. Time for our weekly commentary here on the Publix Tailgate Show, hour number 1 edition from Rick Ballou.
A must-win game, something that drives me crazy. The phrase, at least, it's used way, way, way too much. It's used in September. It's used in October. A must-win game applies only when it's a must-win game. You know what today is? Exactly. Jaguars have struggled at home, 2-5. All this playoff talk, let's just put it out there. You don't win here today against a 2-13 football team who's fired their coach and has a rookie quarterback. How can you talk playoffs if you fall to 2-6 in Jacksonville? Quick, who was the last quarterback to start a game not named Trevor Lawrence? How about Mike Glennon? 28-14 loss at Indianapolis at the end of the 2020 season. The numbers that stuck out for me in that one, 42 passes, 17 rushing attempts. You were the last 3 games, the last 3 losses. 44-13, pass the rush. 43-17, pass the rush. 50-20, pass the rush. Trevor, Beathard, anyone else, doesn't matter. If you can't run, you're not going to win in this league. What a bizarre week with Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence. Thursday, the head coach told us, limited. He'll go. Individually, expect it. A couple hours later, he did not practice. Is this another example of miscommunication? Something that's really haunted this football team over the last month. I can't believe that's the case. If so, this parallels Urban Meyer stuff. I have to think a setback. Something happened. Trevor wasn't what he thought he would be on Wednesday. He picked up the ball. Maybe he was stretching out and he just figured he could not give it a go. As I tape this, I don't know for sure. Frankly, I don't know if we'll ever find out for sure. Numbers are skewed, and numbers to me are always amazing. I go to them all the time. The biggest bizarre number in football is total offense and total defense. Let me give you the perfect example. Today, you could look at Carolina and hear pundits say, that's the 5th-ranked total defense in the NFL. They give up less than 300 yards. They're also the 30th-ranked scoring defense in the NFL. Everywhere we go, we see change this, change that, change this, change that. Isn't it time to go to the most important statistic overall when it comes to the game of football? That's scoring offense and scoring defense. eliminate total offense and total defense. Again, the difference, number 5 and number 30 for this football team in Carolina. Should be a huge one today, and I hope you out there as a Jaguar fan has a very happy new year, and it's certainly guided by a Jaguars victory. And yeah, okay, you got me. It's a must-win game.
Thanks, Rick. Jaguars could use a spark. Special teams could be the spark, so I asked Special Teams Coordinator Heath Farwell why he was optimistic that his units could get the job done.
I mean, we have great players. I think that's the first thing. You mentioned Agnew. Agnew's a special player, a game-changing player that he's done it for years for us here. And every game he has the opportunity to get the ball in his hands, not only on offense, but special teams is a big play for us. So if we could just kind of create more more opportunities, can we hold on to those blocks just a little bit longer for him? He has the ability to score and really to shorten the fields for our offense, and those are big-time plays of momentum, in the kick return game, the punt return game, that he can be a factor. I think Logan is a game changer as well. His ability to flip the field with some big punts and great directional punts, and then our gunners down the field covering and our core guys, leveraging the returner and kind of getting a good feel of flipping the field. Those are game-changing plays there. And then obviously the kicking game, get Brandon back on track would be a big deal. He's been a game changer for us as well. So get him back on track of where he's at and the type of player he's been in this league for a long time. He's had such an impact on some games earlier this season. Let's get him back to that phase, and I believe he will.
How do you handle a guy like that? I mean, is it more something you say? Is it more time in the practice field? Do you analyze it in the film room? How do you take a guy, because I know you've dealt with this before, and get him back on track?
I think it's all the above. I mean, I think it starts with a great relationship together with him, and him and I, have a good relationship, and so it starts there. It starts doing more drill work to get ready, to kind of work out the kinks, and so he's done a lot of drill work with Logan and Ross and the holds and all that stuff, and but it's we do some film work. It's something we were looking at yesterday, kind of just taking a peek of some of his better swings throughout the season. So I think it's a big process of just kind of getting him back on track. It's nobody is harder on himself than him, so I believe he's going to get back on track this week. He had a good day of practice today, so I think we're in good shape.
You mentioned your gunners. You've lost a guy in Daniel Thomas this week who, and I don't know if people pay enough attention, he's a terrific special teams player. The play against the Ravens, I want you to comment on. Who replaces him, and how do you keep that unit playing at a high level?
It's hard to replace Daniel Thomas. Daniel Thomas, not only what you see on the field, what he does off the field is spectacular. In the classroom, he's just a great guy. The players love him. The way he approaches every day in the meetings to how it shows up on the field. He's a special player, special guy. He's tough to replace. He's done some game-changing plays for us this season. I think it's going to be by committee. We got a few guys that can kind of step up. Greg Jr. is one of them. Tim Jones potentially could play some gunner for us, and he has this season, when needed, and he's done a good job for us. So I think it's by committee. I don't know if you could replace DT with one specific player. So I think as a group, we got to fill those voids of 4 phases and 4 phases at a high level. He's done spectacular. He's our leading tackler this season. So we really got to kind of, as a group, just kind of everybody do exactly what we do every day. 1 phase at a time, kind of, hey, you're going to pick up this phase, you're going to pick up this phase, and so on. And just try to, do the best we can.
Don't let me oversimplify this, but when I think of special teams, I think of energy. The energy it takes to be a kamikaze and run down the field like that. It requires that, and it delivers that. The energy, I think, is what would give this team a spark. Am I wrong?
Yeah, and that's something I talked about the guys this morning in our meeting. I said, the biggest thing about special teams is the energy we can bring. We talk about just even today, I said, get locked in on these meetings, come out, have a great practice, because it is the momentum, it is the energy. When we're able to kind of produce a big play in the return game, or a big tackle inside the 20 on a kickoff coverage, or a big punt of flipping the field, it really sets up our offense and defense. So a lot of times the special teams is the heartbeat of the team, of kind of where it's at with momentum and all that. So we talk about that a ton, and I emphasize that this morning of how can we as a group be a huge impact on this game and help us win. How can we put ourselves in good position? And it's in the kicking game. And we talk about doing exactly what we do every single day. Don't make stuff up. But it's also when those big time plays come along, let's make sure we execute them. We're making those plays.
Final thought. You've been around this game a long time. You've been around great teams. This is a must-win for this team. I mean, it's one of those games where you got to have it. Do you like that, or do you embrace that, or do you reject that idea completely?
I mean, I think you have to. I mean, I think that's you play this game as long as a lot of these players, a lot of these coaches have been around it. That's what you want. We seem to play better when it's kind of backs against the wall. It hates to have to get to this point, I guess. But I think that's part of the deal. It's like, hey, we are. It's a must-win game, and let's just have some fun with it. It's in our stadium. It's hopefully the crowd will have our backs, and hopefully we can make some plays early where the crowd can kind of get behind us and be an impact on it. And I think we just got to get back to what we do. That's the biggest thing, is get back to having fun out here at practice, having fun on Sundays. And because that's really what it's about. Football, I try to tell these guys, from a player's perspective, a former player's perspective, is it's still a kid's game. Let's not overcomplicate this thing. Get back to playing football like it's in your front yard. It's like when you're reminding with your buddies in the park playing in the neighborhood. I mean, that's really what it is. It's really a kid's game. Just you're getting to play at a high level against the best competition in the world.
All right, that's special teams coordinator Heath Farwell, who hopes his teams offer this team a spark today against the Carolina Panthers. Much more ahead, including Tony Baselli and Jeff Lageman. First Rounds on Us is next here on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguar sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguar sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Mr. Chubby's Wings is a whole lot more than just wings. Craving the ultimate game day experience? Look no further. Swing by Mr. Chubby's and indulge in the biggest and best wings in town, all while soaking up the lively atmosphere with fellow sports fans. With plenty of game day specials and locations on the West Side, Fleming Island, Ponte Vedra Beach, and new this season, EverBank Stadium, they're here for all your game day needs. Mr. Chubby's Wings is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mr. Chubby's Wings, before the game, after the game, and during the game. As the official ticket marketplace of the Jacksonville Jaguars and the NFL, Ticketmaster has a wide selection of tickets available for every game. Whether you're cheering on the Jaguars at home or away, Ticketmaster has you covered. With Ticketmaster's interactive seat map, you'll get a 360-degree preview of your seat, so you can make sure you've got the best view of those pivotal plays. Plus, the Ticketmaster app makes Ticketmaster has a wide selection of tickets available, and mobile tickets make getting in on game day a breeze. Find tickets today at Ticketmaster.com/Jaguars. That's Ticketmaster.com/Jaguars.
Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading organizations across the country to deliver workforce solutions. As a proud sponsor of your Jacksonville Jaguars, CSI crafts personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has over 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your workforce solutions reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com.
When you show your home love with a natural gas water heater, it loves you right back with more cost-efficient, endless hot water.
Hon, hurry it up, please.
And right now, you'll love earning a cash rebate up to $700 when you install an energy-efficient natural gas water heater.
We're going to be late.
Again.
What? Did you say something, hon?
To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
Feeling hungry, Jaguars fans? Fuel your Duval energy with a delicious Stahlmeyer all-beef hot dog on game day as you support your Jacksonville Jaguars. Whether you're at the game or at home, it's not game day without a Stahlmeyer all-beef hot dog made in Florida. Stahlmeyer all-beef hot dogs will fuel your energy to help bring on a victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stahlmeyer all-beef hot dogs are available at your local Publix supermarkets. Don't feel hungry, Jaguars fans. Fuel your energy with the official hot dog of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stahlmeyer.
All right, final segment of hour number 1. Nikki Shadrick on deck with hour number 2. But before we get there, time for first rounds on us. All right, Jeff and Tony join us from the booth right now. Time for our UF Health, delivering compassionate care and world-class outcomes. That's our game plan. Boy, there's so many things to talk about this week, fellas. First of all, how are you? Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Hope you guys had a good Christmas last week.
Yeah, and good morning.
Yes.
It's a beautiful morning.
It is.
A little cold.
Will it be a beautiful day for the Jaguars? And that's the question. C.J. Beathard, is he the answer?
Well, I don't know if C.J. Beathard is the answer alone, because he can't do it by himself, because Trevor Lawrence hasn't been able to do it by himself over the last 4 weeks. You know, this offense has become very quarterback-centric, and I think today it needs to become the opposite of that. You need to have the ability to run the ball and to stay focused and committed to that, to give C.J. Beathard a chance, especially, Tony, against an offense that doesn't score a lot of points.
Yeah, I mean, this might just be the get-well medicine you need in the Carolina Panthers, because they don't score, as Jeff said. What worries me, Brian and Mike, is I think C.J. Beathard will be fine. But if he can't run the ball, how are you not quarterback-centric? And this team, over the last 8-9 weeks, literally can't run the ball. And so it'll be really interesting. Doug talked about it this week. We got to stick to the run, Do they have the patience, the discipline to stick with it when you're averaging 2 yards, 2.5 yards a carry, if they can't get it going early?
Well, I'll give you the numbers. In the last 4 games, okay, the run game, 18.75 attempts per game. During that stretch, 44 pass attempts. Okay, and there was only one game that kind of got out of reach, which was the Tampa Bay game. In that same 4-game stretch, your marquee back, Travis Etienne, has averaged 3 yards a carry on 41 carries. That's, 10.25 carries per game. You know, that's got to change today if you're going to expect to win against Carolina.
No doubt, guys. You guys played in the era of Jaguar football that saw a lot of remarkable backup quarterback performances. Steve Matthews, Rob Johnson, Jamie Martin, guys like that. Was there a sense in the locker room when you knew the starter wasn't available, in that case Burnell, that we've all got to do a little bit more, and then everybody kind of raises their level of play around that backup?
Well, exactly, and I'm going to add one more name in there because we don't want him to get offended. Jay Fiedler, Tony.
Yeah, Jay Fiedler. I mean, Mike, it's a great question. I think the team was built differently, though. I mean, Tom Coughlin's mindset was physicality, run first, play action pass, throw it off of that. And so when the backup quarterback came in, a perfect example, Steve Matthews. Steve Matthews could barely call a play in the huddle. Like, all week, I'm like, how are we going to get the plays called?
Did he do better than Jonathan Quinn?
Barely. But what we did is we simplified the playbook. I think we only had 5 passes and a handful of runs, and we basically said as an offensive line and everyone else, the backs, it's like, the game's on us, let's go. And we just were physical, ran the ball, and beat them. And then we had, obviously, it helps having Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell. So
just a little.
When they start putting everyone in the box to stop the run and your man outside, you can just throw it up deep and you go make plays. So what I worry about, Mike, first let me answer your question directly. Yes, everyone in the locker room has to understand what is ahead of them and that you don't have your franchise quarterback. With that said, I don't know if this team is built and has the ability to say, we are going to go win the physical battle in the trenches and take the pressure off our quarterback.
Well, and let me just add one little snippet here. If there was ever a game to stay committed to the run, because Carolina doesn't score a lot, this would be the game. And Carolina, a lot of people point to Carolina's defense. Oh, they're a top 5 defense because they're 5th in yards allowed. Okay, that's fine and dandy, but look at their points allowed total.
Yep.
And that's 30th in the National Football League. So that at the end of the day, points matter.
Yeah, and Tony, you well know you were known for having that attitude as well as great ability on the offensive line, and they get some of that attitude back today with Cam Robinson, who's got more edge than I think any lineman that the Jags run out there. How big of an impact do you think that is to the lineup?
I mean, I hope it's big, but I mean, I appreciate you saying that about me, Mike. But we also had guys like Ben Coleman, big physical guy, Leon Searcy, a mauler, wanted to kill people, Rich Tilsky. a guy who was a street fighter. I mean, we had big physical people that came off the ball. And so, yes, I'm glad that Cam's back. Yes, his attitude should help. I worry about the rest of the guys. Are they going to put their hands in the ground and go move people? Because that's how you have to do it to run the ball in this league.
All right, I'm worried more about this Jaguars defense. Okay, I am.
Against this offense?
Against Carolina, yes.
Wow.
And yes, it has a quarterback that's rating is not very high, 31st in the National Football League for qualified passers.
If you breathe on him, he'll fall down.
I know. They get a little mid on him, he's going to fall down. But statistically, the Jaguars' defense in the last 4 games have been struggling. Okay, and here's the numbers. Now, yards per game allowed. Over 400 yards allowed. That would rank 32nd in the National Football League right now.
Not good.
Okay, third down percentage, 50.7% percentage allowed on third down in the last 4 games.
That's bad, too.
That would be 32nd right now, too, in the National Football League. The fourth down percentage allowed 75%. That would obviously be dead last.
That's not good either.
And then points allowed 29.4. It wouldn't be dead last, but it would be 31st in the National Football League. So
that's pretty poor. I think that's bad, too.
And the reason I bring this up is that the conversation all week long has been about C.J. Beathard and the offense and how can they get back right. I mean, the reality is this defense has got some work to do today as well, and especially against a Carolina offense that is going to be pretty confident. Last week they put up 30 against the Green Bay Packers. It was the best game by their young quarterback. Okay, so I got concerns on both sides, and I think that this game that they will play well. But if you look at it statistically and you're being honest, there's got to be concern on the defensive side of the ball as well today.
I think that's fair, Jeff. I think my biggest concern is how do the first 10 minutes of this game go?
I'm with you.
Because what I worry about the psyche of the team. When they were 8-3 and they were rolling, there was a confidence, a swagger. And even when things went bad, there was a belief. At least I felt it here up in the box. Boy, I mean, that Tampa game, it just felt like the life was, as soon as they got down, it was like, uh-oh, who's going to step up? Who's going to get guys going? Who's going to be that, force of, will to change the course of the game? And so I think watch the first, 8 to 10 minutes of this game, and if Carolina comes out hot and jumps on the Jags, that's where my biggest concern is.
All right, guys, we'll find out in just a little over 2 hours. Thanks so much. Happy New Year. Have a great broadcast.
Happy New Year, guys.
Guys.
All right, that'll do it for hour number 1. Mike, thanks so much.
All right, Brian.
Happy New Year, my friend. You got it. Looking forward to it. JP Shadrick is next with hour number 2 and 3. Stay tuned, folks, and thanks for listening to Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguar sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguar sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Unlock your potential at the University of North Florida. A top public university with more than 100 majors, UNF is number 1 among state schools with the highest percentage of graduates employed in Florida. Affordable tuition, programs in high-demand fields, and faculty who care. Swoop into your future at UNF. Visit unf.edu to learn more.
Everyone wins when 2 great traditions team up. Yucatan Guacamole is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Our authentic guacamole recipe starts with hand-scooped avocados and ends up in your hands fresh and ready to enjoy. Grab some on game day at the Yucatan Cantina or Yucatan Nacho Carts around the stadium or at local retail stores. Sack your snack game with Yucatan Guacamole.
Prosser here for Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring. It's getting chilly outside, but you can enjoy the outside inside with a new glass lanai from Lifetime Enclosures. Or look ahead and get that backyard ready for spring with a new screened-in enclosure. And for the time being, you can stop into Lifetime Flooring to enter to win $20,000 in free flooring during the Score Free Floors promotion. Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring. Showroom just off Phillips Highway and proud partners of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
the Jaguars bring performance, strength, and passion to every single play. And you'll find the same when you bank with EverBank. You've worked hard for your money. So if you're ready to up your financial game, it's time to choose EverBank. EverBank. Advantage you. Member FDIC and the official bank of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Earn your advantage at everbank.com/Jaguars.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
The Publix Tailgate Show continues right now.
Hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show, 2 hours away from Week 17. The Jaguars and the Panthers coming up from the bank. 1 o'clock kickoff time. And the final regular season home game fan appreciation day. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios. I tell you what the fans would appreciate is a winning performance. It's been a while. It's been a month of losing for the Jaguars, but they are still in first place in the division. They can clinch the division with a win today, combined with the Texans and Colts loss. All 3 games in the 1 o'clock window.
Yeah, and you can't control what the Colts and the Texans do, so just go win the football game, right? And put yourself in position to clinch it on your own, even if you don't get any help, JP. They just need to stop the losing streak. They haven't won many games at home at all this year. They're playing a team that on paper is an inferior opponent, and that's not to say that they can't beat you. They are playing with a lot of heart, as evidenced by their comeback last week. They were down big to Green Bay, came back and tied it at 30. So they're going to come in here swinging for the fences. They've got nothing to lose. The Jags have a lot to lose, so hopefully it won't be this game today.
Game day weather brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving. Currently 53 degrees and sunny, temperatures into the low 60s by the end of the game today, about 4 o'clock tonight. The temperature throughout the evening should be in that early evening window in the low 60s today, and winds around 10 miles per hour. Here are some of today's top stories, starting with the quarterback decision. Priority number 1 this week, Trevor Lawrence or C.J. Beathard. Well, it's going to be C.J. Beathard getting the start today. Head coach Doug Peterson on the decision.
The biggest thing, and we've talked about this too, is you don't want to risk further injury. And so that's the big thing. And if Trevor plays, we're all in on that. If C.J. plays, we're all in on that. The one thing about C.J. is, in Trevor's absence during the week, it's valuable that CJ's gotten all the reps and he's prepared that way, and he's ready to go. At a moment's notice. He stepped in last week and obviously did a nice job for us last week at the end of that game. But it's a tough decision. But sometimes you got to make, or I have to make those decisions based on Trevor's health and obviously where we are as a team.
And part of it, obviously, the big part is you can't throw the football. You can't play the quarterback position. And that's where this injury is in the throwing shoulder, the AC joint in his right shoulder.
Right. And then you've got to factor in the potential to aggravate the condition and have him absent for a longer period of time as well. Hopefully, if everything goes well and the Jags are able to win this week, Trevor Lawrence will be available to play in Nashville next week. Maybe the Jags will have the division locked up and they won't even need him to, and will have that luxury. But yeah, JP, it still came down to, despite all the reps going to C.J. Beathard, if Trevor Lawrence was physically able to be out there, he would be out there, which tells you how significant this injury probably is, because he just doesn't miss starts. And he's gone through some incredibly bad-looking injuries to his lower extremities, but he's always been able to answer the bell the next week. I'm sure, given the chance, he'd be out there today. But, C.J. Beathard is not going to faint. He's been in this league. He started games. Just needs to go out there and protect the football today, and the rest of the Jaguars players need to support him and raise their level around him.
C.J. Beathard with the reps this week in practice. He's been through this before.
I think I've had a lot of practice at it for the most part. I think the first time it came up, it was kind of a little uneasy, just, trying to figure it all out. But, that's part of the game, is being a backup. You truly don't know when you're going to be in, when you're going to be out. It could be one play. It could be, you could be in for an entire game, could be one play, and you just have to roll with the flow when it comes to that kind of stuff and just go with it.
C.J. Beathard, 2-10 in his career as a starter in the NFL. His last win was December of 2020 with the San Francisco 49ers. Now to the offensive line and changes today. Cam Robinson up and ready to roll at left tackle. Questions at left guard today with injuries to Ezra Cleveland and Walker Little. Tyler Shatley's name was thrown around by Doug Peterson this week as well. We'll see what happens at that position today. But Press Taylor, the offensive coordinator, discussed this week the offensive line that has been searching for that continuity.
You want continuity with the group. You want to put the best five out there. That's the biggest thing, and how they work together obviously impacts the way things go. We're excited to have Cam back. Cam, if he makes it up to game on Sunday, Cam's a great player for us. And so, if he makes it and fits that five and gives us a special opportunity, then he'll be out there ready to roll.
Well, let's hear from Cam Robinson back on the field this week at left tackle after a knee injury. He's missed a lot of football this season, something he hates, but he loves having that attitude back on the field as well.
It's hard to deal with. I always want to be out there with the guys. I genuinely love playing football. It's my favorite thing to do. So anytime I'm away from the game, it's always difficult. But everybody in the building has done a good job of supporting me and kind of helping me along with it. I just go out there and be me. That's kind of how I always have been. That's just the player I am. That's the person I am. So never try to force anything or try too hard to show anything. I just go out there and be myself and just let it whatever shows.
That's Cam Robinson, of course, been around here for a long, long time. A bunch of different ways with some bad teams to playoff teams, and now this team. He'll be back on the field now in Week 17, and it's as the guys talked about at the end of last hour, Mike. It's one guy. There's five guys on this offensive line, and the rest of the line is really under the microscope too.
We'll take all the help we can get, but in terms of the continuity, you can have the same five guys play every snap, and if they are physically getting beat by the guy across from them, I don't know how much the continuity helps you. So having more bodies available to you and having particularly Cam Robinson, not only his ability, but the chippiness that he plays with a little bit, the attitude, the anger even. I think the Jags have been missing some of that during their recent losing streak across the board. Wouldn't mind an injection of that on the offensive line today.
A healthy dose of balls to Evan Ingram could be on the docket again today as well. Was last week, certainly in the passing game. He's 2 catches away from 100 for the season, but in the locker room this week, he understands this team can continue to battle through the adversity they're facing.
I do know adversity does hit everybody, and right now it's hitting us. So that is one thing that, you got to be prepared for in the season is what will you do in the face of adversity. And, right now we're damn face-to-face with it right now. So we always say the true character will show in these times. Backs are definitely against the wall, but the smile on my face says it all too for this team. We're ready to fight. We're ready to fight our way out of it for sure.
He was smiling for the record there in the locker room this week, and hey, not a lot of that. They've got to get back focused again as an offense and get this thing going, Mike. Let's go to the defensive side now and start in the secondary this week, where cornerback Tyson Campbell and safety Andre Cisco started last week's game coming off injuries, but both were sat down in the second half of the game, and defensive coordinator Mike Caldwell explained what they both mean to this defense.
I think both those guys are going in the right direction. Anytime you miss time, football is such a muscle memory job, and anytime you miss it, I guess you miss the day-to-day movements, and it takes a while to get back into that. And those guys are, working hard, and they're getting ready to go again this week.
Yeah, should be back out there again today. Different setup this week in the passing game. No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, but guys that have played some football now in Thielen and Chark.
Oh, Chark coming off a big game, and obviously he's going to be highly motivated. Adam Thielen had a great first half to the season, has slowed down since then, but they're both capable players, and I think it was a case that they were healthy enough in the case of Campbell and Cisco to go last week, but not healthy enough to play their best football, and you saw that in the first half. The Jags tried to mix things up. Hopefully they'll be in there and be able to go the distance today and limit this Carolina offense, which is limited in itself. It hasn't been a good team offensively and defensively this year. Don't let them change that on you this afternoon.
Finally, Jaguars outside linebacker Josh Allen this week, understanding the team is up against it, so they just continue the process of getting better week to week.
We gotta win. It's not must win. You want to say every week's a must win, but it's the way we go about it. We all expect to win. We all prepare to mindset to win, but are we really doing the things each day to prepare ourselves to actually win? And that's where the reality check comes in. So for us to understand that, to know that, to talk about it, to understand it as a whole, not just individually, but to express your individuality to the group, and then we can all bounce our ideas and bounce what we need to do, how we need to handle things, and then communicate that with the coaches, and now we can see a change in practice. All right, let's not focus on this, let's focus on this aspect so we can improve on that as a team.
That's Josh Allen, of course, outside linebacker, and he's a sack away from tying the franchise single-season record set by Calais Campbell just a number of years ago. So he's had a big year. He's got 2 weeks to go in this regular season to continue this big year, but as the defense as a whole just has to collectively play better together.
Sure. This is a team that's been very susceptible to getting the quarterback hit this year, and Bryce Young, when he gets bodies around him, doesn't have the physical prowess to drive the ball downfield. But if you give him a clean pocket, he can make all the throws, and that's the challenge today. Will Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker spend enough time in the Carolina Panthers backfield?
There you have it, some of the best sound of the week from the locker room. Bootleggers, get ready. Luke Combs is bringing 2 nights of the Growing Up and Getting Old tour to the bank May 3rd and 4th. With different special guests each night. Tickets on sale now at everbankstadium.com. Kai Stevens joining us in studio now, Jaguars reporter, and Happy New Year, Kai. Let's get Kai on here. Hey.
Happy New Year.
There you are.
There I am.
Happy New Year.
Hello. Good to see you guys.
Hey, good to see you as well. And all right, here come the Jaguars back home, final home game of the season. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, the quarterback's not playing. There's shuffling on the offensive line again. Receivers are question marks, and the division's on the line still. Rinse and repeat. I feel like we've talked about this for weeks.
It is, and I think, JP, we talked a little bit about this pregame. I have no inkling of what could happen. I think it could be a blowout win. It could be a really dirty win. They could lose. There's a million things that you could say a scenario, and I would be like, yeah, I could see that happening, because I really just don't have a feel for it. It feels like there's a lot of different things in play this week. Obviously, without Trevor out there, that makes things very different, because every week it has really been Trevor's injured, doesn't practice, and still plays, and this is the first week that he's not going to be able to do that. So to see if the other players on the team are going to be able to step up without him. I think sometimes when your quarterback comes back, you're like, oh, Trevor's here, so he'll fix it. But they really do not have that option this week.
No, and you wonder, Kai, I mean, talk about they need to stay with the run a little bit more. Carolina's been a team that's given up a lot on the ground this year. But if you are struggling in the first half, if Travis Etienne has the kind of numbers that he's had in recent weeks, how patient do you think they'll be with this run game today?
They may not have the option to not do what they've to get away from the run the way that they have. I know that they've been struggling with that with Travis, and then they kind of get away from it, right? Or even if they do have a couple successful runs, they seem to find their way away from the run. But whether maybe get Tank in there a little bit, D'Ernest, whatever you have to do a little, screen game if you have to. I would imagine they're not going to have much of an option, right? It's good that you have Cam back out there. I think he does help a little bit, specifically setting up the run. But I also think CJ is capable if given the time, right? Which, sure, most people would say that, but the offensive line hasn't been great to give people the time this year. So if CJ has some time, I think he can be serviceable for this game, but I don't know if that's going to come to fruition.
I think we'd take CJ's season-long numbers today. 23 of 29. He's completed 79% of his passes, 171 yards. Doesn't have to throw for 300. Thrown for 1 touchdown. No interceptions. I think we'd all take that right now. Just something that moves the chains enough, gets you in the end zone once, maybe twice, and just protects the football.
And I think that's going to be the key, too. We don't need you to come in. It's the Panthers at the end of the day. Yes, they're playing much better than the Jaguars are right now, but if you go in and you don't make the mistakes that we've been seeing the last month, if you just play sound football and don't turn the ball over, you're going to be in it at the end of the game, and that's what Jaguar fans have not seen the last month. So if Beathard can go out there, protect the football, not turn it over, that'll give them a really good chance.
Kai Stevens in studio with us. Jaguars defense has had their share of this month of losing as well. And last week the starting safety Cisco and the starting corner Tyson Campbell were in the game. They started. They didn't finish the game, though. And Mike Evans is going up and down the Raymond James Stadium against them. So they're going to be back today. It's imperative for those guys to really stand in and step in and stay out there and stay engaged in this game.
It's been tough because of the injuries that they've had have kind of led to other injuries, right? So Tyson had the hamstring at first, then it turns into something else, and then, Cisco's had several soft tissue injuries as well. And then they're out there, but then they're not playing the way that we're used to seeing them play. And that, I think, is the problem, because you're saying, oh, the starting, corner and safety are out there, but then you're not getting that kind of effort out of them. And whether that's, issues with the scheme or whatever it is, or if it's injuries, you're not getting that what you need in the backfield, and I think that affects the whole thing. Obviously, we talked about lack of communication on the defensive side of the football, but against Tampa, they just weren't very good, and Josh Allen was the first one to own up to it and say, I didn't do my job, so I can't be getting mad at other people, but we all need to do better.
All right, so Fan Appreciation Day, final regular season home game today. What's on the docket outside today?
I think just a lot of different fan events. There's a whole list of them, and I think I will say there's a whole stuff. They're giving away all the things they always give away, but a lot of stuff like that. And I think just if you can get out here, it'll be the last regular season game. We are hopeful there will be another game, but it's your last chance to see him this year.
Yeah,
this year for sure.
And come help them win the division.
Fans would appreciate a win more than anything.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah. And a better performance at home. It hasn't happened a lot in this stadium this year as well. Kai, have a great day. Good to see you.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Kai Stevens in studio with us, and plenty ahead. We're closing in on inactives, about 15 minutes away from those. Up next, Aditi Kinkhabwala from CBS Sports joining us ahead of Week 17. The Jaguars and the Panthers coming up at the bank, and this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguars sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguars sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Facing cancer takes a lot of determination, strength, and support. And you'll get it all at Baptist MD Anderson Cancer Center. Determination from world-renowned doctors, giving you specialized treatment with cutting-edge technology and research. Strength and support from a dedicated team, caring for you completely, during and after treatment. Don't face cancer with anything less than the team at Baptist MD Anderson. Appointments available at baptistmdanderson.com.
You say there's nothing quite like the feel of the open road when you ride a motorcycle. You know it takes concentration, knowledge, and skills beyond those required to drive a car. Ride Smart Florida would like to take this opportunity to remind you to enjoy the road, but to always ride smart. S-M-A-R-T. Say no to drinking and riding. Make yourself more visible to motorists. Always wear your helmet. Ride in control. Train regularly and get endorsed. Visit RideSmartFlorida.com for more details. Do you ride smart? This message is provided by the Florida Department of Transportation.
JEA is proud to be Northeast Florida's community-owned utility. So what does that mean? It means we serve our local customers, not investors. That we're always focused on keeping our costs as low as possible, while exploring new ways to deliver clean, affordable energy and water. And that we invest in our people and infrastructure to deliver reliable, sustainable services. Because for 127 years, JEA has been here to serve you, and only you. JEA, your community, your utility.
Flight by Yingling is the next generation of light beer. For those who don't follow trends, but craft them. Flight by Yingling is 12 ounces of uncompromised refreshment from America's oldest brewery. With only 2.6 grams of carbs and 95 calories, this is premium refreshment 6 generations in the making. Don't just raise a glass, raise the bar. Flight by Yingling. Available wherever beer is sold. DG Yingling and Son Incorporated, Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Please enjoy responsibly.
Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading organizations across the country to deliver workforce solutions. As a proud sponsor of your Jacksonville Jaguars, CSI crafts personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has over 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your Workforce Solutions reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios. The Publix Tailgate Show continues. We are closing in on kickoff in Week 17. The Carolina Panthers and the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up at the bank. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff time today. Mike, let's go around the National Football League.
All right, JP. Well, after the Cleveland Browns opened Week 17 with a win over the Jets on Thursday Night Football, there was a lot going on in Dallas, Texas in a Saturday night matchup between the Cowboys and the Lions last night. After a low-scoring first half that saw the Cowboys holding a 7-3 lead, Dallas inducted former head coach Jimmy Johnson into the Ring of Honor at halftime. Then things got crazy late in the game. The final 2 minutes of the game, Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy opted to throw the ball on second down with under 2 minutes to go. Incomplete, allowed Detroit to hoard one of their remaining timeouts and save 40 seconds on the clock, which mattered because after Dallas kicked the field goal to go up 7, Detroit was able to go down the field and score with only 23 seconds left. So you reasonably can think the game might have ended before they got that opportunity. So with them now trailing by a point, the Lions opted to go for 2, and they ran a tackle-eligible play successfully. Looked like they're going to walk away with a 1-point road victory. Referee rules that Taylor Decker, the man who caught the pass, didn't properly report, although there is some reporting that he did, in fact, do just that. Either way, the 5-yard penalty moved it back to the 7-yard line. Everyone thinks, well, Detroit will kick the extra point now. Dan Campbell looked like he was on tilt. The head coach of the Lions opted to go for it, got bailed out on another incomplete pass as Micah Parsons was offsides. And then finally, after they moved the ball half the distance to the 3.5-yard line, they opted to go for it again, and Jared Goff threw a pass to the 1-yard line that even if the ball had been caught, might not have resulted in a successful 2-point conversion. The Lions then ultimately lose the game 20-19 last night. In the victory, CeeDee Lamb set the Cowboys franchise record for both receptions with 122 and receiving yards in a single season with 1,651. Moving on, the Denver Broncos host the Chargers today. They'll do it with quarterback Jared Stidham under center. Denver opting to bench Russell Wilson, who's got a clause in his contract that would lock in $37 million in guaranteed money in 2025 if Wilson can't pass a physical at the beginning of the 2024 league year. By benching him, the Broncos hope that they'll avoid him getting a football-related injury, which would allow them more easily to move on from him in the upcoming offseason. And tonight, Sunday Night Football, Packers and the Vikings. The Green Bay Packers suspend top corner Jair Alexander for this matchup after last week. He goes out for the opening coin toss. They're playing in Charlotte, right? He says after the game, maybe coach didn't realize I'm from Charlotte. Maybe he did, but either way, he didn't name you a captain. So Alexander goes out, declares himself a captain, goes out for the coin toss, calls it correctly, and then when they say, what do you want to do? He goes, we want our defense on the field. To which Mike LaFleur then had to go to the referees and clean this up to go, no. That clearly means we want to defer to the second half, because that almost was a situation where Carolina was going to get the ball to open the game and open the second half. But either way, they suspended Jair Alexander for conduct detrimental to the team. Apparently, it's not his first run-in with the coaching staff, but declaring himself a captain was enough. And this is a crucial game, a must-win game for the Packers, and good luck covering Justin Jefferson without your top cover guy tonight.
Just when you think you've seen it all, then something else happens.
We're not even scratching the surface, right?
Not at all. There's your look around the NFL in Week 17. Aditi Kinkhabwala has the sideline duties today for CBS Sports. Spiro Ditas and Adam Margelletta in the broadcast booth. Aditi spent nearly a little over a decade with NFL Network, but now in her second season with CBS. We caught up on Friday, and the Jaguars are up against it yet again.
You know, it's been an interesting season to watch from afar because I was here so much a year ago, and it felt like this was a team that was surprising people. And then this season has been about learning how to play with the burden of expectations. But it's all part of the growth of a young team.
And Doug Peterson's been through it before. I mean, they did it on the other side last year, rallying in December and figuring out ways to win, and probably games they shouldn't have won while the other team lost. But like you said, now they've got to finish this thing out. They've had the division lead. So, what now? How do they change the tune now with 2 weeks to go? And
run the ball. I'm an AFC North girl. I'm an AFC North girl. I believe that in December, you run the ball. Even if you're in Florida, you run the ball. But I do think that with a backup quarterback, with a team that, although the Panthers did look significantly better a week ago offensively, still you want to control the clock impose your will, run the ball. Let's go see the superstar that I believe Travis Etienne is.
We've seen flashes of it even this season in London against Buffalo. He was fantastic. The offensive line was really good that day. That's been part of it. The O-line has changed so much, especially on the left side. And having Cam Robinson back, that's got to give this group a boost this week.
Well, you have to be excited, right? It's even in demeanor. It's not just a big body. It's not just a big name. It's his attitude out there.
You know, we talked a lot about this offseason, hey, Cam Robinson's out the first 4 games, PED suspension. Oh, they'll slide him over, whatever. He'll figure out something. After the season, they can cut him anyway and save a bunch of money. But then he gets back in the lineup and you realize, oh, that's why. He's the left tackle. That's why he's getting paid like he is. So people around here, at least a lot, have felt, they're quick to get rid of good football players. And there's a reason he's good. You don't get rid of those guys.
Certainly not. And I think that that's part of the continuity that you look for, especially when you're building a team and you're building your leadership and you're building your identity and you're showing who you are. And in a lot of ways, the Jags kind of overachieved a year ago, but they certainly set a standard. So stick to that standard as opposed to kind of going back to the mean.
Where are you on Calvin Ridley? What have you seen from him this year?
Okay, so I love that you're asking me that because I literally just said that out on the practice field to a member of the Jaguars staff. So where are we on Calvin Ridley? I don't know. Can I answer that question after the game on Sunday? Especially since he's someone that you hope will have a big game on Sunday.
He's going to need it. I mean, he's the only real starting wide receiver left on the field right
I didn't know if I was allowed to say that just yet, but correct. Yes.
I mean, that's what it is. I mean, Zay's been hurt. Christian Kirk is,
who I'm so sorry I don't get to see. I will say that. Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk are both young men that I genuinely appreciate as human beings. So I am disappointed I won't see them. But hey, Evan Engram, having a monster year.
Thank goodness for him.
Yes, and really grown as a leader from what I'm being told. And I spoke to him a bunch last year, talked to him again this week. It feels as if he's a little bit more at peace. And I think security would do that for any of us, right? He was on a show me a deal a year ago where every snap, every play is so meaningful. He showed exactly who he is, found a place to call home, got that deal that he absolutely deserves, and now he's on the cusp of doing something that very, very few tight ends have ever done. Although I did ask Doug Peterson if he's only 2 catches away from that 100 catches. He goes, no, don't put that in my head, because then they'll be forced to try to force him the ball.
Well, I don't think they have to try to force him the ball. They're going to get the ball.
To Evan Engram, yes.
Aditi Kinkhabwala is with us, CBS Sports. All right, defensively, this was a takeaway defense. They prided themselves on stopping the run a lot of the season. Some of that's gone away now. So, all right, how do they figure that back out in the last 2 weeks? And where do you begin against Carolina? What do they have to offer?
How about refocusing on tackling, which allegedly has been done this week, which you would know better since you were here every single day this week. But 15 is that what it was? 15 missed tackles last week?
Big number, yeah.
15 missed tackles. You can't be doing that.
They weren't doing that earlier in the year.
Right. So I
odd.
think refocusing on that, working back at the fundamentals of that, and I'll use the same exact word, focusing on that, driving it home, and that's something that I'll be watching for from the sideline on Sunday. And if there is a missed tackle, what is the response to that? It's something that Josh Allen talks about a lot, right? How do you respond? And he's another one who maybe had a game that was a bit disappointing in his mind last week. And so how do you respond?
Aditi, this is a team that's built a lot of free agent guys that weren't homegrown, that weren't drafted here. But there's a few of those guys. We talked about Cam Robinson, drafted here, signed another deal here, right? There aren't many that have been around that long. Josh Allen's in a contract year. You brought his name up. 13 and a half sacks at the right time. If he finishes strong here, he's, set up for a huge payday in the offseason. But this organization needs homegrown guys that stick around for that second contract, especially the first-round guys. They have failed to do that over the years.
Well, and I think that you do have the right guys here. I don't know. Now, I'm not in your locker room every single week, but I'm scanning the field this week, and I don't see jerks. I don't see any jerks. I don't know. You tell me. Am I right on that
No, I mean, it feels right. I mean, this is an approachable locker room.
Right. So it feels as if you've got the right people who are growing and developing. You see the way Trevor has grown from a year ago, how he's grown as a leader. You talk about how Evan Engram, not homegrown, but he's grown. Mm-hmm. You see Josh Allen. It wasn't that long ago that he was learning at Calais Campbell's knee, and now Trayvon Walker is learning at Josh Allen's knee. So I think organizationally, these are the guys that you do want to keep around, that you do want to sign second contracts to, that you do want to have mold and develop the next generation. And I don't see any reason that wouldn't happen, especially since the Jaguars have had this taste of success right now.
Aditi Kinkhabwala, sideline reporter for CBS Sports. The full conversation available now on the official Jaguars podcast network. Inactives are due when we come back. We'll give those to you. We'll get a fantasy forecast and Frank Frangie in the broadcast booth a little bit later. Up next, though, as we mentioned, Inactives and a pregame Huddle Up podcast. Bucky Brooks and John Oehser are standing by ahead of Week 17, the Panthers and the Jaguars at 1 o'clock, and this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguars sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguars sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Who will your child grow up to be? Well, that depends on all of us. That's why, along with our groundbreaking medical care, Nemours Children's Health supports programs that address issues like food insecurity and the resources essential to learning. It's all part of creating a healthier future for all children, so they can grow up to be whoever they want to be. Nemours Children's Health, well beyond medicine.
As the official ticket marketplace of the Jacksonville Jaguars and the NFL, Ticketmaster has a wide selection of tickets available for every game. Whether you're cheering on the Jaguars at home or away, Ticketmaster has you covered. With Ticketmaster's interactive seat map, you'll get a 360-degree preview of your seat so you can make sure you've got the best view of those pivotal plays. Plus, the Ticketmaster app makes it easy to sell or transfer tickets if your plans change. And mobile tickets make getting in on game day a breeze. Find tickets today at Ticketmaster.com/Jaguars. That's Ticketmaster.com/Jaguars. Mr. Chubby's Wings is a whole lot more than just wings. Craving the ultimate game day experience? Look no further. Swing by Mr. Chubby's and indulge in the biggest and best wings in town, all while soaking up the lively atmosphere with fellow sports fans. With plenty of game day specials and locations on the West Side, Fleming Island, Ponte Vedra Beach, and new this season, EverBank Stadium, they're here for all your game day needs. Mr. Chubby's Wings is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mr. Chubby's Wings, before the game, after the game, and during the game.
Hey Florida, this is Luke Fortner, center for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We all know the rush of a good game, but there's no winning with aggressive driving on our roads. It's all about strategy and control. Embrace the space with the driver in front of you, go the speed limit, and use that blinker. These are the moves that make us all champions of the road. Target Zero is our game plan for safer roads and is a testament to our teamwork and dedication. Join me and let's get everyone home safely every single day.
Hey Jags Nation, it's Andre Sisco, safety of your Jacksonville Jaguars, here to talk to you about Luray Peanut Company. Luray is bringing something to the market that has never been done before, microwavable boiled peanuts. Whether you like salty or a peppery Cajun kick, they've got you covered. Now, thanks to them, y'all can enjoy boiled peanuts at the bank while you watch me and the rest of the team tear it up on the field. Can't make the game? No sweat. Find a bag at a store nearest to you by heading to LurayPeanut.com/find us. Go nuts, go Jags, and as always, Duval.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios at EverBank Stadium. The Panthers and the Jaguars coming up at 1 o'clock in Week 17, the home finale for the Jaguars in the 2023 season. Let's get to the inactives for today's game. The Jaguars have 5 players down. We'll go numerical order. Zay Jones, wide receiver, is out today. Still trying to come back
from hamstring issue is the latest. He also has a knee issue he's been playing or trying to play throughout the season. Trevor Lawrence inactive for the first time in his career. The Jaguars quarterback is out, so C.J. Beathard will get the start at quarterback today. Yasir Abdullah, rookie outside linebacker, inactive today. Cole Van Lanen, the offensive lineman, is out, and Angelo Blackson, defensive tackle, is out of the game today for the Jags. How about the Panthers?
Well, how about former first-round Jaguars draft pick C.J. Henderson, a healthy scratch once again for the Panthers. His career not exactly going the way he anticipated it would. Troy Hill, another corner, also inactive today for Carolina. Tackle Ricky Lee, guard Ilm Manning, wide receivers Mike Strawn and Terrence Marshall, and defensive end Chris Wormley, the 7 players not up for Carolina today.
All right, the inactives are in. Week 17, Panthers, Jaguars. Let's welcome in NFL Network analyst, Jaguars radio field analyst Bucky Brooks, and Jaguars.com senior writer John Oehser. It's a pregame Huddle Up podcast. The boys are in the booth, and Happy New Year, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. What's going on? How we doing? We positive? How we feeling?
Bucky has changed my approach, JP. I got to admit, I walked in the stadium. I was feeling the 4-game losing streak a little bit. This is happy ozone you've got right now.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, take a picture. This you never know. This
It'll last.
Could change in a hurry. Why all of a sudden the positivity, Bucky?
Well, that's the only way you can get out of a slump like this. You lose 4 games in a row. The confidence around the building, the confidence within the team, the confidence around the city is at an all-time low. And so the only way you can turn this around is you got to face it squarely. You have to be positive that you can pull yourself out of it, and then you got to do the things necessary to turn it around. And so it's no magic formula or pill or anything like that. They simply just need to play better. If they just do the simple tasks well, they'll have an opportunity to win. And we've said that for the last 4 games. But now they got to do it because their backs are against the wall.
Hey, but before John, sorry, I got to argue with you. It's not an all-time low. I mean, there have been 2-win seasons around here, Bucky. That's the all-time low. Anyway, go ahead, John.
Yeah, but I think you're right, JP. It's and I think the fans feel a little bit of a prove it game today. Hey, it's supposed to be a good team, and I think it is a good team. I was feeling a little bit of the 4-game losing streak. Okay, what is this? But the bottom line is you win your last 2 and you win the division, JP and Mike, and that's only happened, 4 times. So you have a chance to win back-to-back divisions. So I hope the players feel that urgency because this is still really important for this franchise. This is not a routine thing being in division title races. So I hope you see energy that, frankly, we didn't see last week in Tampa.
Well, you're right about that, John. They really are fortunate to still be in that position where they control. If they win out, they're going to win the AFC South. So we'll see how they handle that today. Yeah. I'm curious how you guys feel about the running game that has struggled. There really hasn't been a running game to speak of for Jacksonville in the last month, but Carolina hasn't stopped anybody in that department most of the year. So which team has the advantage, the team that can't run or the team that can't stop the run?
Yeah, look, I don't know if there's an advantage for either one, but I will say one of the things that happens when you don't have Trevor Lawrence, you have to lean on other aspects of the team. And so this is one where Press Taylor and Doug Peterson, they have to run the football because they don't want to finish the game and have a stat line where C.J. Beathard has over 40 attempts. If he has over 40 attempts, it's not a good day for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so some of it is being a little stubborn, being persistent with the running game. Another part is Cam Robinson coming back to give them a little of that toughness and physicality and some of the nastiness that he brings. And so hopefully the running game will have an opportunity to get on track and we'll see some success.
Yeah, I think they're going to come out wanting to do it. I think they're going to try to stick to it. They're certainly better this year when they feel like they can run and commit to it. I always go back to that 5-game streak where they were winning. And Travis Etienne, I think, had 8 touchdowns through the first half of the season. And you felt like when he got in the end zone, they were a better team and they were doing what they wanted to do. They've gotten away from that, not by choice because they haven't been able to do it well. I've been saying the last 2 or 3 weeks, and you guys asked me, can they run? I'd be lying if I said I thought they were going to be good at it. But I know they want to stick to it today. Let's see if they can do it. I can't predict they will, but they sure want to.
Bucky Brooks and John Oehser joining us from the broadcast booth upstairs. Well, part of that, Bucky, is blocking number 95 for the Panthers, Derek Brown, at 6'5", 320 pounds, defensive end. How do you do that today with the interior and the right side of the line?
No, he's a monster. I mean, he's one of the best young defensive tackles that we've seen. He's as good as advertised. Coming out of Auburn, he's a guy who can play on the other side of the line, and he has exceptional strength and power. He is someone who you have to put a lot of extra attention to. You have to make sure that you control him at the line of scrimmage because he can wreck the game plan. But if you can get him controlled and neutralized at the line of scrimmage, there's some favorable matchups up front that you can exploit. The main thing when it comes to the Jags, I just want to see him line up. I want to see him come off the ball with urgency, and I want to see him hand the ball and give it to Travis Etienne and let him run it and see what he can do. He has to get 20 to 25 touches, and most of those touches need to be on the ground.
Panthers have allowed 56 sacks this year, so how important would it be for the Jags to maybe get an early lead so they could get them into some obvious pass rush situations?
Well, I think an early lead's everything today. I mean, you felt it last week when they didn't get a lead, the air sort of went out of it. They had, in the 5-game winning streak, they only trailed like 2 or 3 minutes, and that was to the Colts when the Colts scored on the first drive. They haven't led since the end of the Cincinnati game. So is that cause or effect? I don't know, but I sure don't want to see the Jaguars make a couple of mistakes in the first quarter, get down 7-0, 10-0 to a team that you feel like you shouldn't be down to. They didn't respond that well to that last week. So could they respond better today? Sure, but I think getting a lead, being able to play with momentum, they were good when they were doing it this season. They haven't done it in a while.
No, they haven't done it in a while. And so it's important. We talk about that confidence, no matter what. Like, even though these are grown-ups, they're no different than kids. When you lose and you lose back to back to back to back, you begin to doubt and question, can you get a win? And so it's important early in the game. Good things happen, big plays, knocking field goals in, scoring touchdowns, being able to get some 3-and-outs. Those things will boost the confidence, and you'll finally see the version of the Jaguars play that we saw when they went on that 5-game run. It's there. It's just that right now, when you have so many bad things happen in succession, you begin to doubt, can you get back to that point? But if they have good things happen early, you'll see that team reappear.
It's Bucky Brooks and John Oehser in the broadcast booth. The most positive thing that could happen today is a Jaguars win and a Texans and Colts loss, and then you're handing out hats and T-shirts today, Bucky. What's your size? What are you wearing?
Oh, look, man, whatever it is, I'll take it. I mean, if it's free $99, I'm good. Even if you have to squeeze me in one of those little mediums, I'll take it. Look, it would be a great thing if the Jaguars can get it done today. If the football gods see it where they win, the 2 division rivals lose, and so then Week 18 is one where it's a polish-up game as opposed to a pressure-packed game. So hopefully it works out that way.
Free $99. I like that. I think that's an appropriate way to end.
It would be a nice way to celebrate New Year's Eve, that's for sure. Guys, have a great game today, and Happy New Year.
Guys, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
John Oehser and Bucky Brooks in the broadcast booth upstairs. The weekly Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks show Wednesdays at 4 on Jaguars.com and the Jaguars YouTube channel. We're closing in on Jaguars Radio Network coverage. Countdown to kickoff starts at noon. Up next, though, a fantasy forecast and Frank Frangie in the broadcast booth. The Panthers and the Jaguars coming up in Week 17 with a 1 o'clock kickoff time. And this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguars sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguars sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Unlock your potential at the University of North Florida. A top public university with more than 100 majors, UNF is number 1 among state schools with the highest percentage of graduates employed in Florida. Affordable tuition, programs in high-demand fields, and faculty who care. Swoop into your future at UNF. Visit unf.edu to learn more. Tackle your marketing needs with Kessler Creative. Providing direct mail services for more than a decade, Kessler has a wide range of services from small mailers to large banners and signs. Draft Kessler as your first pick to receive the best targeted mail list. Elevate your business and be on the winning team with Kessler Creative. Kessler Creative, results-driven marketing, and proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars.
JEA is proud to be Northeast Florida's community-owned utility. So what does that mean? It means we serve our local customers, not investors. That we're always focused on keeping our costs as low as possible while exploring new ways to deliver clean, affordable energy and water. And that we invest in our people and infrastructure to deliver reliable, sustainable services. Because for 127 years, JEA has been here to serve you, and only you. JEA, your community, your utility.
Since 1916, Duval Motor Company is here to keep you and your vehicle off the sidelines. Their all-star lineup of dealerships provides superior sales, maintenance, and repairs for every make and model with Ford, Honda, Acura, Subaru, Chevrolet, and everything in between. At every Duval location across North Florida, Duval Motor Company always puts service first. In-store, online, or at your front door. Get service first with DuvalMotorCompany.com.
Feeling hungry, Jaguars fans? Fuel your Duval energy with a delicious Stallmeyer all-beef hot dog on game day as you support your Jacksonville Jaguars. Whether you're at the game or at home, it's not game day without a Stallmeyer all-beef hot dog. Made in Florida, Stallmeyer all-beef hot dogs will fuel your energy to help bring on a victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stallmeyer all-beef hot dogs are available at your local Publix supermarkets. Don't feel hungry, Jaguars fans. Fuel your energy with the official hot dog of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stallmeyer.
This is the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios. The Panthers and the Jaguars coming up. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff time today. And let's get a fantasy forecast, Mike Dempsey.
Okay, a lot of injuries we were keeping our eye on going into this 1 o'clock window, JP. And first off, Josh Jacobs, who was doubtful to play, has officially been ruled out by Vegas. That means Zamir White can continue to lead you to a fantasy championship. He's been fantastic the last couple of weeks and really doesn't share much in the backfield when Jacobs is out. So he looks like a great start this week versus the Indianapolis Colts, who, by the way, will have Michael Pittman Jr. available to them. He cleared concussion protocol, was still questionable, but officially active today. New England will not have Hunter Henry today, which is a shame because he really has had a great chemistry with Bailey Zappi. Now, this will be second consecutive missed game here for Henry, but he was a nice option in the weeks leading into Week 16, but he is out in their game versus the Buffalo Bills. Better news for the Rams, Puka Nacua, questionable to play. He will be active today, as will Kyler Murray for the Arizona Cardinals. You wonder, though, who he has in terms of weapons outside of Trey McBride, as Marquise Brown went on injured reserve this week. Alvin Kamara officially active for the New Orleans Saints. He was also listed as questionable with an injury. Cole Kmet was said to be a game-time decision, the tight end for the Bears. He is good to go today, although Jacoby Brissett is not for Washington. They'll host a probably pretty angry San Francisco team coming off an embarrassing loss to the Ravens on Christmas night. Brissett was slated to start in place of Sam Howell, but today will be the emergency third quarterback due to injury. Howell will get the start today. Brian Robinson back in the lineup for the Commanders as well. Chris Rodriguez, the rookie running back who scored 2 touchdowns last week, one on injured reserve this week. So Robinson could have a decent workload, but a tough matchup there with the 49ers. And Raheem Mostert, who scored 21 touchdowns this season, not available for you in championship week. He has been ruled out with multiple lower body injuries. So Devon Achane, probably an increased role. Jeffrey Wilson probably moves into a flex level play today. And just a couple of quick ones for the afternoon. Kenneth Walker, questionable for Seattle. Don't put him in your lineup unless you've got a pivot that you can go to and have him in as a flex, not a running back, to give yourself some more flexibility. Denver starting Jared Stidham in place of Russell Wilson. He'll be without Cortland Sutton at wide receiver. Marvin Mims said to be unlikely to play. Jerry Jeudy banged up, but will get the start today. And Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire both expected to be available for Kansas City in the backfield. Pacheco got kneed in the head by one of his linemen last week, got a concussion. CEH has had an illness this week. And Jamar Chase on the other side in that game, expected to go for the Bengals after missing Week 16.
There you have it. Fantasy forecast Week 17. And today's game is presented by Johnson & Johnson. The makers of AccuView brand contact lenses is making vision possible. Proudly based in Jacksonville. Visit jjvision.com. Let's go to the broadcast booth upstairs and welcome in Frank Frangie. And Happy New Year, Frank. How are you?
Happy New Year, JP, to you and Mike. Great to be here. And another beautiful day. Cool out there a little bit, but a gorgeous day for football.
Well, I mean, it is New Year's Eve. You would think it would cool down a little bit, but we've seen it both ways here in town. It should be a nice afternoon for football, though. And, all right, 4-game losing skid. They've got to figure out a way just to play better ball, but it's not that easy with the backup quarterback and some changes on the O-line again and everything that's gone on defense the last couple weeks. So how do they just calm it all down and play clean with all of this happening?
Well, that's the key, isn't it, JP, to play clean? A number of things at play here. This is the first time now in a while they haven't caught a team playing well. I mean, Cleveland and Baltimore are already in the playoffs. Tampa Bay playing better than anybody thought they would, better than they've played all year long. They've won 5 games in a row or 4 games in a row. So a little easier competition here, but you're right. Take care of the ball and start fast. I heard Tony talk about this with you guys earlier. This is a team that's lost some confidence. So I think the first drive, whoever has the ball first, is critical for this team. Gain a little confidence. I think you're probably going to see them run the ball a little bit today. But play clean. You hit it, JP. That's the most important part of this whole ball game. It really is.
I would argue, Frank, by Carolina standards, they are playing well. I mean, they've had a miserable season, but they won only their second game 2 weeks ago, and they got down last week and fought all the way back to tie it at 30. So at least, look, they're coming in with a puncher's mentality. They don't even own their first-round pick next year, even organizationally. They don't care about, ruining their draft position. I think they get to play kind of free and loose today. Do you think the Jags are able to do that, or will they be tight coming off a 4-game losing streak and understanding that they really, if they lose this game, the likelihood is they're not going to be playing in the postseason?
No, you're right, Mike. And look, but your point about the Panthers is a good one. They're playing better than they've played all year. That's your point. I agree with that. My point was Tampa Bay right now is a pretty good team. And I thought Cincinnati that night was a pretty good team. I'm not sure the Panthers are, but I hear you. They're certainly playing better than they've been playing. To your question, I don't know. Look, these. I say this about NFL guys all the time, Mike. There's still guys in their their early 20s, okay? I don't care how good an athlete you are and how much you've played football. You're still 22, 23, 25 years old, and you're impressionable. And right now they've got to lack a little confidence. I think that's a very real thing. So I hope they'll play loose and free and easy. I think one thing having C.J. Beathard play does do is he's an older guy. He's 30 years old. He's been around a little bit. He knows what to do, and I think he can be a bit of a calming influence. But I don't know if they're going to play loose and free and easy, and I think that's a big part of this game. It really is.
It would help to run the ball, right, Frank? I mean, they haven't done that in a while, it feels like. They did that well early in the season. There's been a revolving door in the offensive line on the left side, so maybe that's sturdied up today a bit. So I feel like we're going to see Travis Etienne a good bit, maybe.
I think so, too. I think you may see Tank Bigsby some, too. Dearness Johnson, I think, is banged up a little bit, JP. So I think this might be the game. We keep thinking we're going to see some of Tank. I think you might see some of Tank in this game, but a lot of Etienne. And I think the plan has been to run the football. I think that's been the idea all these games. And then you look up last week, you're down 20-0, and all of a sudden that goes out the window. I think sticking to the run, which logic says is the game plan today. C.J. Beathard's playing. You've been trying to run the ball. You get Cam Robinson back. Your line's at least a little healthier. Logic says running the ball would be the game plan today. The key is, can you stick to it? And is the game set up in a way, JP, where you can stick to it? Again, if you look up and you're down 17-3, it's harder to run the ball. And so hopefully you stay ahead of the sticks a little bit. The game stays in a position where you can run the ball. And I think they've got to try and run the football. They really do.
Yeah, that has been one thing. The Panthers have not gotten big leads on anybody. Their 2 wins were very slim margins. Right. But, Frank, we saw DJ Chark last week. Down 14. He scores 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns. Obviously, he wants to come back to Jacksonville and have a big game today. Can they pressure Bryce Young enough today? They've allowed 56 sacks that these components in the passing game are not going to have that big of an impact.
Mike, that was his best game as a Panther. And certainly he had been waiting for the game like that to happen. It was clearly the best game he's played since he's been in Carolina. You better believe he's going to want to play well. Well, that's the key. I think they've got to get after the passer. I think they will. I think the Jags will rush the passer better. Again, I think this is a weaker team than they've played in a long time. Obviously, it's the worst team in the league. But, I mean, I think it's a drop-off from what they've been playing. But you better believe it. And, look, Bryce Young's still a young guy. He's still a guy now that is sackable. Like you guys were talking about earlier, you hit him, he goes down. He's trying to find his way. He's had a harder time finding his way than the other young quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson didn't play. C.J. Stroud obviously is very good. Will Levis looks like he at least found his way a little bit more. for the guy that's the first overall pick, part of it's being on a bad team, and Mike, I think a dysfunctional team a little bit. The coach has already been fired again. But I think he's had a harder time finding his way, so he's going to hold the ball a little bit longer. He's going to be unsure of some stuff, and I think that makes it easier to sack him. But, yeah, Josh Allen's been quiet the last few games. The pass rush has been quiet. They've got to get to Bryce Young, no question about it.
Frank Frangie in the broadcast booth with us. Special teams. And let's start with the kickoff coverage. The return man for Carolina is averaging about 28 yards per return, so you got to slow that down and can break it out, so that's one thing. And then the field goal game for the Jaguars. Brandon McManus is on a missing streak. And, you know, at what point does that change Doug Peterson's philosophy of, oh, let's settle for a longer field goal here? If he's not guaranteed to make it, does he go for it a little more? Does the target line change some here down the stretch?
Well, there's no question it changes it, JP. I think if you're not confident, and again, Brandon made 17 or 18 in a row earlier in the year, so obviously he's a good kicker. He's a guy they targeted and went out and got, and he's been a veteran for a long time. But because of the slump he's in right now, how can you not have a little bit of trepidation when he runs out there? I think Brandon's going to have a little bit of trepidation when he runs out there. So not just Doug Peterson sending him out, but I think Brandon's going to have a little bit of doubt when he goes out there. So yeah, I think 4th down and 2 from the 34. I think you're more likely to go for it than you would have been 3 weeks ago. I think that's common sense, and I think you got to keep an eye on that. My guess is they probably looked around at kickers. There's not a whole lot out there. And Riley Patterson, who kicked here before, signed with the Browns. My guess is they probably kicked the tires a little bit. I don't know that, but right now he's the kicker, and I do believe what you said is you have to be a little more wary of sending him out there for a 53-yarder when he's missed a bunch of 50-plus in a row. You just have to be.
So, Frank, what's your level of confidence today with everything that goes into it that the Jags at least will do their part and get the win regardless of what the Colts and Texans do?
I think they're going to win the game. I still think, as I said at the top of this, Mike, I think they've played 4 teams that were playing at a really good NFL level when they played them, and I don't think that's where the Panthers are. I think the Jags will run the football. I think they have not been a physical football team, but I think they'll be more physical than they've been in this game. I don't think it's going to be pretty, Mike, but I'd be surprised if they don't win this game. I mean, you know how the NFL goes. It's a streaky league. You win, you lose 2 out of the first 3, people doubt you. Then you win 7 out of 8, and people think you're really good. Then you lose 4 in a row. That's the way the league goes. That's the way the league's built. My guess is they'll play well enough to win the game today. I'd be very surprised if they don't.
Frank, have a great day. Happy New Year.
Okay, fellas, Happy New Year.
Frank Frangie in the broadcast booth. Up next, Jaguars Radio Network coverage and countdown to kickoff. We'll hear from pride of the Jaguars running back Fred Taylor, now a Hall of Fame finalist, and the final word before kick with head coach Doug Peterson and much more. The Panthers and the Jaguars just over an hour away in Week 17, and this has been the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
As the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Publix is helping fans gear up for game day with the limited-time Jaguars sub. Piled high with hot deli chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll. The Jaguars sub is an easy, delicious meal for any fan. Make it an ultimate game day by ordering the Jaguars sub online for in-store pickup. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Brooks Rehabilitation is hiring nurses who want to be empowered as advocates, educators, care coordinators, and leaders in exceptional patient care. They have open RN, LPN,